Good evening and welcome to this April 13, 2026 Committee of the Whole meeting of the Village of Lake Bluff Village Board of Trustees. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Eshelmas is absent. Trustee Fisher?
Here.
Trustee Freed?
Here.
Trustee Hatch is not here. Trustee Renner is not here. Trustee Ryder?
Here.
President Charlotte?
Thank you. And I do understand that we're missing Trustee Renner and Trustee Eshelmas for emergency medical care, and I wish them a lot of luck for what happened. And it seems to be okay, but we can still have a good thought for them. Next is our non-agenda items and visitor for public comments. The Committee of the Whole allocates 15 minutes during this item for those individuals who would like the opportunity to address the Committee of the Whole on any matter not listed on the agenda. Each person addressing the Committee of the Whole is asked to limit their comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. And again, the Village Board very much values public comments, and to the extent your public comment is a question or requires further investigation, Village staff will follow up with you outside of this meeting. Time for non-agenda public comments is not intended to be a question and answer session or for board deliberations, but the board may, at its discretion, choose to answer questions or discuss non-agenda items. We appreciate your understanding and look forward to your comments. And I do not see anybody willing to address our board tonight on a non-agenda item. Do we have anybody online willing to do so?
No, sir.
And we are moving on to the next item, that is our general business, that is the Committee of the Whole will entertain requests from anyone present to modify the order of business to be conducted, and we have one item tonight, so as we move forward. And that will be followed by our consideration of the minutes of the February 9, 2026 Committee of the Whole meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. Are there any changes? It's a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you. And tonight we are discussing the village special event and flag display policies. Before we start on this subject, I would like to say that tonight's discussion will revisit the conversation we held around this topic at the same time last year. It was a loaded subject. It was a very difficult subject. I recognize for many of us, those discussions are still quite fresh or even vivid. It's the case for me. This is a challenging conversations, and we are working to balance competing interests in front of us. While I hope we can reach a consensus, there might or there may not be a perfect solution to this conversation. And we'll strive to the best solution we can achieve in this conversation. Last, my goal is to reach a decision by the end of this meeting, 7 p.m., and I will guide this conversation accordingly. I want to get to a result. Last, a subcommittee was created for this project. And I thank Susan and Kat, who did a wonderful job on this subject, withdrew, of course. And I'm very grateful to the three of them in preparation to tonight.
Village Attorney Friedman was part of the crew as well.
Peter.
I'm not grateful.
I don't know if you want to start off, or I can.
Sure. You go ahead.
Okay.
Turn it.
So, don't want to leave in perfect timing. Trustees Hatch, Ryder, and Village Attorney Friedman and myself got together 2 times to go through this topic and reviewed the history of this issue. And as soon as the board assigned this group to this task, like literally that night, my mind started churning, and I put these questions to kind of push through to kick off our first gathering and to really kind of try to frame this issue and explore it at the same time. So these are the questions that we've talked about and worked through, I would say, continuously through our conversations, and it just got more and more refined. And so what you'll see here tonight is we'll kind of walk through some of these with you all, and then maybe set it out where some options for everybody to talk about, and maybe what some of the next steps could look like.
So I'll pick up there. As Drew said, we met twice, and I would say our discussions were organic at the beginning, meaning that we didn't have a set agenda, we didn't have a end goal. We wanted to talk about these questions in this context, and Drew did a nice job of setting that up and doing some homework for us. Some of the homework that he pulled together were the mission statements that we're going to provide in this deck, and then the goals, et cetera. Also, the public comments from last year. Many, all, perhaps of us remember some of the meetings regarding this, and we also went over some of the public comments that we got both in that meeting as well as outside that meeting to try to, I should say those meetings, not a single meeting, but try to take into our review really all of the feedback that we had gotten, and not view it solely from the lens of how can we remain comfortable, but instead how can we consider everybody's point of view and still come to a proposal that we can move forward with. As Drew mentioned, we started talking about, well, we've talked about this for a couple of years now, but in February 9th, during that meeting, we made a specific request, and that's what Drew was referencing, that we address this issue before we have a request for additional flags, as we did last year, and we considered it the last minute. So it was our hope to have this discussion early, though April is here upon us, but so that we could have a less impassioned and a more precise discussion of our various options that we have. The other thing that we've learned in the last few months, if not years, is that there are interrelated issues. There is not a single issue. There are several issues that show up in different policies that we have in place. And so that's the other reason we wanted to take back up and take kind of a fresh look at all of these issues. And as this first page reflects here, we did start by thinking broadly, and then we moved to, next page, then we were able to move to how do we present this? You don't want the 4 and 5 hours of discussion that we had, if you can help it, but we would like to be able to present it to you in a way that's digestible and yet maintains that kind of fulsomeness that we were able to achieve in those lengthy discussions. So tonight, what we're going to be focused on is first the guiding documents for the organization, for the village. What guiding documents do we already have in place? What can we glean from those as to what we want to do with regard to public and private speech and displays, public and private displays on village property? So those guiding documents are the first thing we'll look at. Then we'll take a brief look at the public input. If you want to be reminded of that, Drew has pulled it all together. So you can contact him, but we did not attempt to go through every public comment, but instead bucketed the comments as best we could. And then which policies are impacted. And then finally, by 7, we will have an idea of next steps. Unfortunately, we are missing 2 members. That may mean that we need to have less finality to our discussion than maybe we'd hoped, but we will try and see how far we can get and hopefully answer anybody's questions. So next page, the first thing we started with was our mission statement. And we certainly need to provide the services and stewardship and vision that fosters a vibrant community and enhances our quality of life. As I look at that, I think, as most of us will, what adds to one person's quality of life, unfortunately, is perceived as detracting from another person's. As we saw through the debate last year, one thing that we view that should be universally positive is unfortunately not necessarily viewed as universally positive. And we have to grapple with that issue, I think, openly. And as we'll get into it, it does create some differences in how we might approach the topic. Okay, next is the village goals. We need to bolster economic vitality. We need to cultivate connection and a sense of community. We fortify our public assets and systems. We remain environmentally sensible, and we ensure insightful governance, financial viability and safety, and quality municipal services. We will come back to some of those, but that is something that we hear on many topics. We hear kind of what are the basic duties that we have, and one that we hear is our public assets, taking care of our roads, taking care of our stormwater, ensuring that we maintain the budget in a fiscally reasonable way, and that we maintain the quality of our municipal services. So those are some of the goals that are stated there without overlooking any of them. The next one is the guiding principles, also a document we have. Did anyone know we had so many documents? The village and its stakeholders embrace these shared values, which serve as guideposts. So first, take personal responsibility for the quality of our community. I think that's one everyone can agree on. Act with integrity, accountability, and in the best interest of all. Also, as stated, that one makes sense. Demonstrate kindness, neighborliness, and concern for others. Be inclusive, welcoming, and open-minded. Interact with respect and civility in all circumstances. Embrace a positive, forward-looking orientation, and cherish our history, culture, and legacy of excellence. I won't read everything, but those will come back later in the discussion as well. And finally, our brand platform, which may be of all the various documents, perhaps the least directly relevant, but worth considering as it's stated there. So did anyone, before we move to the next one, did anyone have any comments about the written, I kept referring to them as the constitutional documents, the documents that don't answer every question, but set forth sign up the foundation from which we need to move.
And I'll just add, if I may, that so the mission statement, the goals, high-level goals, and the guiding principles were created as part of the village's strategic plan that is currently the 2026 strategic plan, but those go back and have changed very minimally for over the last decade plus. So those have been, something like that have guided the village, large picture blueprint for the community for a good while, but that's where they.
When were they most recently adopted, or reviewed and adopted?
2 years ago.
Okay, I knew it was fairly recent.
Yeah.
Realized it was
Brand
that recent.
platform goes back to 2016, but both the brand platform and the village's strategic plan, those were documents that were created by residents for the residents. Mm-hmm. Through a very public inclusive process.
Yes, that makes sense.
You ready to go?
Yes. Okay. So then the next page is the public comment themes. We tried our best to bucket these rather than try to identify each and every public comment, either orally, in person. People made them, many phone calls that Drew received, individual conversations that each of us had. And we don't pretend to have captured them all. But the best we could do is come up with buckets or themes that we were able to identify. And one, I think, that Drew explained was one that he heard over and over again in particular was this is our place to have peace and tranquility. That is a high value. Our home should be peaceful, a respite from all of the chaos. These are not putting quotes because they're not direct quotes. They're an amalgamation of the sense of the themes of items that Drew in particular heard. You may have heard some like them, or the counter to this place is a bubble, which puts it in a bit of a negative light, if you will. But this is the concept. It's the bubble, and darn it, we like the bubble. Stay on mission. This is one we heard about when we discussed the cooperation or the restrictions on ICE that many of us were interested in. We heard a lot about scope creep. Wait a minute, we voted for you guys to keep our taxes down and keep our streets in order. Stick to your knitting. There's got to be a better phrase, but that's the one that comes out of Nebraska.
Wheelhouse is the Midwest, I think.
Wheelhouse. We have very little water out there. So we do knit a lot, though. Stick to your business. We didn't elect you to take on the national issues. We have streets and garbage and stormwater for you guys to worry about, and keeping our taxes in order.
I think the thing I heard the most about that is the village should not be involved in social issues, even though the police department is dealing with those social issues in the first place. But that was the sentence I heard the most.
Right, and it's a Rorschach test, if I'm pronouncing that right. One person's social issues, another person important government process. So that we're not necessarily endorsing all of these statements, but merely trying to frame them for our discussion. Yep. One that I think is pretty universally stated is that community events and celebrations are important to everyone. I think we want to continue the traditions and celebrations that we've had. I think we definitely want to make room and ensure that we have room for new ones as they come along. And if we were saying, only the 4th of July parade, because that's the only one that's been around for 100 years, then we wouldn't be growing very much. But certainly we want to continue to grow, and there's pretty universal, at least I hope my neighbors think so, because Sunrise Rocks is coming again. But so I think it's pretty universal notion that celebrations and community events are key, and those are organic or grassroots. They're not imposed by the government, by the village. They're something that people feel strongly about, and they create for the entire village. And finally, one we heard about was go look at your founding documents. Go look at your principles. And one that is there, we just read it, in Lake Bluff, we will be inclusive, welcoming, and open-minded. And part of that, viewed by a substantial community in the village, has been support of the LGBTQ community. We heard that loud and clear. Unfortunately, as we went through all of those themes, there isn't. My view is that arrow clearly points one direction, and then this desire to be tranquil maybe points us in a different direction. They aren't necessarily at odds with one another, but what we saw last year when we took this issue on is that some of that tranquility that some people value so highly was challenged, I think, by some of the interests of celebrating, in particular, in that case, Pride Month. So those were the public comment themes. Were there other public comments? People had individual conversations, and I certainly don't mean to ignore any themes that you may have heard, but we wanted to try to identify these as best we could.
I think the best summary you have when we spoke, the best summary you provided was competing interests. They're all good interests, and we have competing interests to establish consensus upon, basically.
That is what I learned organically, is that we have lots of high-minded ideals, most or all of which we would agree with, and they don't all go together all the time.
Yep.
They just don't. So what to do? So next page is, so what do we want to see in our community? And these two are things that we heard about from public. And these are not, so we obviously have these special events. I would add to the list that we have there that we want to foster them as well. We don't want to carve these in stone. These are the ones that we currently recall, and no one wants to carve them in stone. We have had memorial ribbons, bring them home ribbons, pause for Patrick, MAD, other ribbons on the Parkway. And I believe there's an interest in allowing for that, but we also need to determine whether or not we're going to regulate that or not.
Formally.
Regulate that. We continue to permit people to put their ribbons up at their own discretion and take them down in a reasonable time without getting involved. So memorial ribbons was one thing that we heard people would like, of course we want to do that. But there are different pros and cons to that as well. The status quo was one thing that ended up carrying the day last year, and it doesn't mean that it needs to carry the day forever. But the status quo is a lot of what we got feedback on, as well as obviously feedback that we ought to grow in the direction of flying the pride flag, and that there was a great deal of support for that. And so that's key to figuring out how best to proceed with these policies that we'll get to. Holiday decorations, we've enjoyed those for many years. We've enjoyed the menorah on the village green. How do we, and as well as the Christmas tree, other recognitions of holidays such as the orbs and the greening of the street lights, et cetera, all of which contribute to this feeling of community that we cherish. And how do we make sure that policy doesn't get in the way of things that we have enjoyed in the past is a question. Special events, like we've referred to in number one, we've talked some over the last several months about ensuring that they're local, and then discussing what length of time is an appropriate length of time for a special event. How do we use the special event process that we have in place, and it's included in the packet? How do we use that special event process to ensure that we have the ability of public to come up with an idea, move forward with an idea, and do so in a way that meets the most of the interests that we can, achieves the best result for the most people, I think, is the goal. And then public and private entities invested in community wellness, such as the mental health and socio-emotional development of our kids and of the people more generally. All of those things seem to have widespread support. Now, I say that, and number three comes with a big widespread support for either or. And so that's, of course, an elephant in the room. But there was a great deal of pushback on adding to the government flags, and what we need to determine is whether there's an appetite to do that going forward.
I mean, this begs a question right here. The thing I've heard most is status quo. Why do you guys need to do that? So that begs the question, so where did we go wrong, or does that go wrong when we keep a status quo? Where are we faced with a conundrum where we can no longer move forward? Where is that failing?
I hope you're not looking at me for an answer.
I look at Drew for that answer because I know where it actually has gone as a problem.
Okay,
I mean, the first thing was the flag, the banner on the green.
yeah,
That was, well, we did not have a way to address it properly.
yeah.
That
Yeah.
was event number one, and it was insulting to the community, or some parts of the community anyways.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. And that gets into, that's the free speech issue, right?
We'll get to that.
Which we will get to. But that's the banner, the election-related banner you're referencing?
Correct.
Yeah.
And so the point is, it would be very comfortable to stay at the status quo, but we were faced with too many issues where we have to do something going forward.
That's true.
And that is why we're sitting here tonight, where the status quo is actually not enough.
So, as it became obvious, and I think will become obvious, there are a couple of competing concerns. And so I think it was very useful. I'm hoping you find this hour useful for everyone to back up and look at it broadly like we attempted to do. Kat, before we move on to the next one, did you want to add any?
No, you're
Since you
doing
just-
a really good job giving.
Thank you, keep going.
No,
Anybody-
but, like, because the next couple, I think, will start explaining why some of these concepts are a little bit more difficult than others. Like you said, like 3, and although we may have grand ideas, there are some practical implications that need to be considered.
So one thing that isn't here, because it's in the US Constitution and nobody's questioning it, is that people need to have the right to free speech. We accept that everyone has the right to speak their mind. That doesn't fall into the list of what do we want to see in our community, because it's a given, right? That everybody has the right to free speech. What is not necessarily a given is how they are allowed to articulate their free speech or exercise their right to free speech. And so trying to figure out time, place, and manner controls that we can have for everybody that allow for people to exercise the right to free speech, and ensure that we are not favoring one speech over another when it comes to private speech.
And I think that that's kind of a nuance that sometimes people forget, is that as a government entity, right? Like, we can't there are different standards for state-sponsored versus like the individual right, and that's where.
And so the fact is that we're not going to stop anybody from exercising their private right to free speech. People can continue to have a sandwich board and march on the green. That's not anything that anyone is trying to stop. People are allowed to express what they want to express on their own property. And we certainly aren't going to do anything to stop that. The question is, what time, place, and manner restrictions might we put on everyone's speech so that we can all live in an appropriately tranquil and forward-looking village, if we can do both, tranquil and forward-looking. Okay, so we'll move to the next. Okay. So one thing, so there's several policies that are implicated in all of this big picture discussion. and we just talked about number 3, free speech always exists. What that means is you can have your soapbox, you can have your sandwich board, you can have your sign, and you can, as long as you're not hurting anybody else and causing, calling fire in a crowded theater, or whatever the phrase is, you can exercise that right to free speech. But the time, place, and manner restrictions that we're talking about come in the form of the special events policy. So the special events policy that is also in your packet has been in place for many years. 6 years. Oh, since COVID. We've had a procedure in place for special events. And most, dare I say, vast majority of our special events are one day. They set up on the green in the morning, they're done by the end of the day. There were a couple that we thought of, Art on the Bluff art show, I think is 2 days, as I recall. The Ghost Walk, I think, is offered on 3 days, but there's a
Set up,
tear down, and other things. But the vast majority of what we're talking about, even the criterion and other things, are a single day. And so our thought was, let's get some rigor around this special event process, special event time. So the proposal that we're talking about is to have our special events apply to what is the vast majority policy, apply to what is the vast majority of what we have done for decades in the organization. And that would be to have a special event be an actual event. So a special event is where people, the public, are invited to come to a public space and utilize the public space. The examples that we gave back several pages ago were mass. There's a mass that's held. Many people aren't going to attend. That's not their thing, but no one is told they cannot attend. I've got a bunch of vegetarians. They don't go in my house. They don't go to a rib fest, but they could. They could have all the potato salad they want, right? So the notion behind these things is that they're an event to which everybody is invited, and it's not in the nature of excluding anyone. But we're thinking that to regain the focus on events, we ought to limit it to 1 or 2 or at most 3 days of actual event. I think we've had debate back and forth about one day is really what covers 95% of what we're doing here, so why more than 1 day? It's to get back to the point here is to get back to the notion of what an event is. An event is something that happens, there's a sponsor, there's somebody there supporting it, and then it ends. And that's, I think, what we moved away from last year.
So for example, you can't just plant your sign and walk away.
Cannot plant your sign and walk away. It's your event. You're having an event. Number 2 that we've also talked about that's related is that the special event is to have an association with a resident or someone with a tie to the greater Lake Bluff, Lake Forest community. And I think as a matter of course, that is what's happened. We don't have, Rib Fest isn't thrown by the good people of Glen Ellen. It's thrown by people here. But it is something that we could build into the special events policy so that we didn't have outside folks coming in and saying, I want to use your green. I have nothing to do with Lake Bluff. I heard about Lake Bluff yesterday when I Googled you. I didn't know anything about it, but I'd like to hold my special event here. So this is just a bit of a formality that we're proposing be added to the special events policy.
I just want to highlight in past discussions, when we weighed the cost-benefit analysis of keeping it local, we did, and you might have said it, and I
No, it's
didn't hear
okay.
it, but but we're talking about making sure there's a local sponsor at the bare minimum, because, like, for instance, the Criterium is an outside,
Outside people, yeah,
yes.
right.
Yeah.
But we have internal, like, people of the community that are in support of it, that are, if not,
Sponsor, I think that's the right.
sponsoring is the right word. We played with words, but I'm glad to use the term sponsor.
And I
But
have a
it has to be associated with individuals who are here.
So I have a question about the nature of the event. You say it is an active event, people are going to be there. I mean, we have events in town that are where this is an event, but there are actually no people around there, such as, for example, the 4th of July sign that is outside of our door. It's an event, but yet this is not active. It will be active.
So you're talking about signage, right? Signage related to an event.
Correct.
We talked about.
We did.
Right.
The ancillary issues. Yeah.
It's ancillary to an event. So there's signage, like the Ghost Walk. The Ghost Walk has a banner up that's sitting, I don't know, outside of Village Hall, right? It's signage related to an event. And so upcoming event can have, under certain circumstances, we will permit signage related to that
Got it.
event.
So you make a distinction between the signage and the event.
There
Right.
already- Yeah,
That's
we already
right.
have a signage policy too that Drew's worked with for quite some time that we thought satisfied our need for right now.
Okay, thank you.
So, but you got to exactly some of the issues that we got to. So that's one proposed policy change, is to make the special events policy about an event rather than about a long period of time in which people may or may not be present. It's the event itself that we're talking about sanctioning and having regulations about. Okay. So number 2 is the flag policy issues, from which we are all just recently recovering. So here we are to talk about this again. So we have 3 options here, one of which is to maintain the status quo. No government flags only, and no written policy. Number 2 is to adopt the status quo, and that policy would simply document what is the current status quo, government flags only, but would also identify how we're going to recognize certain holiday celebrations that would be in a formal policy as well. And then C is adopt a broader flag holiday celebration policy. And subsidiary to C are the options that would include: 1, create a process to consider requests on a case-by-case basis. And then that means that the village would be saying, yes, we want to speak in this way. Okay, that would be the process in this adopted policy. We would not necessarily codify what in advance. In this example, we wouldn't codify in advance how the village intends to speak. Instead, we would take applications, please village, speak on this issue, and fly a flag. And we would consider those on a case-by-case basis. That's not dissimilar from what we've talked about before. What's key to understanding is that is the village choosing to exercise public speech. It's not us saying, thank you very much, person, we'll happily display your private speech. It matters, so Peter says, right? So 2 is what I think some group of us, myself, was in part of this effort at one point, adopt a government policies plus state or nationally recognized displays by reference to the state, or I suppose reference to the national standard for what are displays on flagpoles as acknowledged or recognized by the state. We talked about some of the months, the African American History Month, Women's History Month, Hispanic Heritage Month, etc. those kinds of displays could be recognized in a policy. And then finally, all displays, but again, what we would be saying is this is village speech. We would be saying, yes, we want to put on our flagpole what is all comers, but it's going to be us, it's going to be our speech, it's going to be on our flagpole. We put that there because that was at least one example of what Rafi was proposing, and he's not here. If you're listening, Rafi, I hope I'm getting it right. But once we allow one type of non-government flag, we ought to, in his opinion, be allowing all. And so we put that one there to identify that issue was out there. Peter.
I would just comment on that Romanet 3, the all displays. That's the Boston situation.
That's the Boston situation.
Right, so.
So tell us more about that, because unfortunately, we understand it, but not everybody.
So that it's on a government flagpole, but once you allow all displays, then that means all displays. So it kind of transforms it away from being government speech. Now you're kind of opening it up as a public forum, and then you can't pick and choose, as opposed to having a policy that says, here's what's going to go on our flagpole, and it's identified, and this is what we're going to do. Once you kind of open it up to all displays, then it loses that government speech quality.
So, right, and so it's up there, maybe, I think to remind us that that's at least part of the discussion we had. Yeah. But I think what we're trying to do under the broader flag policy that's identified in C is maintain focus on what will be the public speech, our decision. And I think what Peter is saying is once we went to, we're going to say yes to everything, that's what our policy is, saying yes to everything, then it becomes a public forum and is not really public, us exercising the right to decide how to speak on behalf of the public. So why we're here is that we need to get consensus around both of these issues. Relatedly, we want to acknowledge that we've had some public forum issues creep into these discussions in the past year. So the use of the special events policy to create on the green a public forum where private individuals can decide how they want to speak. And we have considered how expansive that could be. We have had public comments sort of threatening to put what many people would view as offensive materials there because of the notion that the special events policy has to only control time, place, and manner, can't pick and choose amongst things we like and things we don't like, because that is what we're trying to achieve, is to achieve a special events policy that does what we want it to do, and that is create opportunities for grassroots efforts to create special events to which everybody is invited, and allows for a community feeling and a feeling of inclusiveness and all of the things that we love, without opening up all of the public area around the green to be a public forum. I will say one thing that's we've been able to learn from other towns who have gone down this path. And Peter can speak to them better than I can, but there are at least a couple where they made a conscious, or maybe not so conscious, decision and created a public forum and are now trying to figure out how to pull back from the public forum because of the strife, as I understand it, that has caused. We are trying to get ahead of it to the extent we are, and figure out how we can use special events to do all of the great things that we want them to do and not create this issue that other towns have gone through. And if that wasn't too unclear, maybe, Peter, you can talk a little bit more about the experience of other towns and what we're trying to learn from their experience.
No, I mean, I think you explained it correctly. With regard to the public forum, I mean, we have had towns who have a piece of property that it has been a public forum, and over the last 5 or 10 years, there's been speakers on those properties that have taken advantage of the public forum with what many believed were distasteful, or not even that, which their message was something that there was great division in the community about. I wouldn't even, it could be a lot of different things. There is a way, it's very difficult legally, but there is a way once you have a public forum to eliminate the public forum. You got to go through a lot of steps, and then you can't like 2 years later say, okay, now we want a public forum. Like it's, courts will not look kindly on the back and forth. Once you get rid of a public forum, you really got to get rid of it. Once you have it, you have to live with it and do time, place, and manner restrictions.
Okay.
And I didn't get the sense, and I brought this up before, I didn't get the sense that there was much desire to get rid of the Village Green Public Forum. That didn't seem like we were going to close that down. So that's when, the discussion was, okay, what kind of restrictions can we put to at least try to manage it?
That's right. I mean, what we're saying is for a period of a day, we are going to have special events. And the special events may be a sign that many people don't agree with,
Right.
and it may be a speaker that not everybody agrees with, or maybe a vast majority of us don't agree with. But we have always permitted special events, and what we are saying is we want to continue that. And that is something that we are going to have to discuss. Unless we want to shut down all of the good things that we do like, we are going to need to allow for some amount of special events, which could include speech with which we don't agree.
So I'd like to be mindful about time because I want to go around the trustees and I will let you speak next, Kat. But the point is, I think you're making good distinctions, and I would like to keep those distinctions so that we can actually not mix everything, keep everything separate, such as special event and flag policy, for example. And I would like to go through the trustees. Kat, I cut you off, please.
Peter, I had a question about the flag policy. Has that also been an issue that other communities have gone one way and come back another way, to your knowledge?
Well, I think since the Boston case, there's been communities realize that they need a flag policy. Like it can't be willy-nilly. So they've said, okay, some don't have. I mean, some, it's the American flag, it's the Illinois flag, it's the municipal flag, and that's it. Like, it's just not an issue. Others, where they get requests, they now realize they gotta have some rules.
Okay.
I'm gonna let my partner Stu Weiss come up now, because I have to run, as I told you, but you're all in good hands.
Thank you, Peter.
Yep.
So if you don't mind, I would
Yes,
like
no,
to go-
I've said plenty. Although I will just say that it is necessary for us to address these as a whole. It would be, I think, to address one issue without addressing all the issues would leave some open questions. And so
Absolutely.
that's where we're trying to do that.
But for the sake of consensus building, if we can get to a decision, and I would like to get to a decision, I would like to address issues separately so that we can actually maybe address one specifically and have a chance to address the other one separately so that we're getting to a term to that. And so the two things we're discussing really is events with a choice menu and the flag with a choice menu. And so I will point it to you specifically, pointedly. What do you think about that?
Can you just repeat that? I'm unfortunately chewing this chip and didn't hear the words.
So in order to actually, for me, I would like to basically divide and conquer issues so that I can actually get to, if you have, so I really want to speak about events and only events distinctly from flagpole and only flagpole so that I can get to consensus building, okay? So if I can ask you, okay, now that you have, that Susan in great length has posed the issues on the table, what do you think, what is your preference, where would you like to go, so that I can actually tally that, so that we can actually get to the possibility of a consensus? Who wants to start?
I'm happy to start.
Thank you.
So I'm of the view that we should have an events policy. 1 to 3 days sounds really reasonable. I think you take the bad with the good, you accept the free speech that comes along with it, and we put in place something that's reasonable and applies to everyone equally, no matter what that event is. Now, I don't know if there's, like, if there are certain restrictions that you can spell out, like violence, you know, things of that nature that,
Incendiary
Yeah.
language.
We do have some language, Drew.
Yeah.
What is the exact language?
It's in the,
It's in the packet.
We had drafted that up, something in that vein.
yeah. And that would be the reasonable restrictions I would put on it, you know, something to avoid violent, insulting, you know. I'm not sure how we, you know, how we draft that out, but other than that, you know, then it's free for all.
So restrictions, bless you. So what you're saying, 1 to 3 day event policy, equally applied to all, and you're saying with some restrictions that would be, and you said violence, for being one of them.
Yes, and you mentioned that there's already some language that,
We had put, Peter, if I remember, there was some concern about, we were trying to, you know, we can't manage the content, right? It was staying away from that. But that was the goal,
yeah.
your concern.
Okay. What about the flagpole policy item?
Yeah, so I'm of the view, and expressed this last year as well, that I would be in favor of government speech and flags that speak to community issues, and it's particularly the ones that are state and national.
So,
Trying to describe it, but
So-
basically on the Roman numeral, you know, 2, state or nationally recognized.
so we're saying, are we saying federal, the US flag, the state of Illinois flag, and the village flag? This is a possibility? Or are you going above and beyond that?
No, I'm going beyond that. Yeah.
Okay, and that would mean holiday celebrations, or are you going beyond that?
Sorry, what did you say?
Are you including,
Celebration?
let's say we have a Christmas flag, is that okay? I mean, it doesn't exist, but,
A holiday flag that does exist, for instance, is the Juneteenth flag.
okay.
So I think the question here is, is it speech that's designated by the village? And then if so, what is the boundary of that? And you were saying governmental flag. The government basically, the village would decide which flags. And of those flags, are they just flags of governmental units or beyond that? And you're saying
Right, we
beyond
would
that.
designate the flags, yeah.
Okay, so we do designate the flag. Okay,
2C2.
okay, got it, thank you. Sorry for being painfully
No, that's okay.
specific. Thank you. Darren?
First, I want to say thank you to the two of you for the hard
Yes.
work. And Susan, thanks for, I mean, Kat, obviously you,
No, she did a great job
but
presenting.
tonight, yeah, really
And
helpful.
leading.
And I want to acknowledge what's been said 100 times, which is, it was, you know, about a year ago, and we are still feeling uncomfortable around all of this. And I'm grateful for the hard work the four of us here on the dais did then and continue to do, and how we have continued to show our community that adversity and hard topics, we can handle them, and we will continue to work as friends and neighbors and collaborators to overcome those difficult discussions and challenges. I absolutely agree with everything you're recommending regarding the special event permit. I like the idea of being really clear and concise. I think the time limit you're recommending is appropriate. I've been digging into my brain about sort of this stuff from law school about what is where can we press up against our limitations so that we are not infringing on free speech, but we can also preserve the peace, the sanctity, the reduce the chaos and the sort of wholesomeness of the community. So obviously I'm thinking about how is there language that we can craft that is useful for us to assure that our children aren't seeing, derogatory or foul language on written free speech signs. But other than that, I think I said it last year, and I agree completely with what you just said, Gina, which is I would rather us cope with some, free speech we might not agree with than limit free speech. So, and sometimes, it all plays out the way it's supposed to. So that being said, when it comes to the flags, I haven't really changed my position on hoping to see a pride flag flown in Lake Bluff using government speech. And I think I also agree with 2C2, because I don't think any of us want to be in the business of a case-by-case basis. I don't think it's fair for staff, and I think it will create an ongoing tension and disruption for our ability to, or whoever is sitting up here, to do our jobs. So that's where I land.
Or you're saying 2C2, but you're saying 2C1.
No, I'm saying I don't want 2C1. I think 2C1 will create a lot of extra work
Okay,
and a lot of problems.
got it. Okay.
My stance hasn't changed either. I want to adopt the status quo, so 2B. That we have now, so just state Lake Bluff and Illinois, the US flag, the three.
Got it. What about the event policy?
The what? Oh, the event policy, yeah, I like that. I'm a 24-hour person, but I understand the 1 to 3. I mean, and we had talked about, most of them are 24 to get special permission, but I understand that some things need more time.
So you need
I'll support the 1 to 3 days.
1 to 3? Okay. Okay. So 1 to 3 days event policy, 2B, 4 flag policy.
Yes.
Okay. I'm painfully specific again because I get in trouble afterwards, so
No, I get it.
thank you. Suzanne?
So as to the special events, I would support 24 hours by administration and up to 3 upon review by the board. I think there are 2 maybe that require that additional date, and I'd like to have a 24-hour expectation, just that typically is what we're going to be permitting. I think we've talked about having an association with the resident. I am also at 2B. However, I want to identify what we're saying with respect to B, status quo with the flags that we currently fly. And the holiday celebration policy would be that we continue to decorate the green, we continue to do all of the things that we have done, and that we accept a gift from other religions beyond the Christian religion. We accept as a gift the menorah that has been being shown under the special events policy. We accept a gift if someone wants to provide that to us, and we will display that as well. Comparably, if there are other gifts to celebrate the holiday season, we would consider those as well. I want to be clear that our current status, when we expanded to accept the menorah, had been done under a process that we were permitting, and what we'd like to do is have this inclusive nature of the holiday celebration recognized in the flag and holiday policy. That may mean that we have another holiday that comes to our attention where somebody wants to gift us a celebratory item around the holiday season, and we can adopt that as well. But right now, what we know is we have routine gifts of trees, and we have routine gift requests for menorah that we would accept as a gift, and then it would become village speech, right? Am I right about that? Okay.
Oh, is the menorah village speech? It's
Right
not-
now.
It's not Chabad coming in and doing a special event?
That's what it has been.
Right.
And if the village board truncates the allowable days, and that takes away that tool, if you will, to provide that display celebration. So if the village is, if you remember this time.
We didn't have it for 8 nights, did we?
Yeah, yes.
I thought for some reason, maybe I'm thinking of Lake Forest had it for 1 night, which was, yes.
Yes.
All right.
You're there.
Don't mean to mix us up, yeah.
So we could continue to do one night.
So yeah, if somebody chose to gift the village a menorah, then we can display it just as we display the Christmas tree or holiday tree, and I think there's been court decisions saying that's okay.
Yes, the courts have found, so generally for like Christmas decorations, kind of the more secular aspects of a Christmas decoration, non-creche ones, courts have said that those are simply expressions of like a holiday and not an actual endorsement of religion. In cases where there have been displays of a menorah or a Christmas tree, those can be considered government speech. The problem that you run into is if you get, as happened, I was looking this up, I can't remember, I think it may have been in Arkansas, where someone tried to gift to the city a statue of Baphomet by the Church of Satan. And that's not something, I mean, it's a pretty impressive statue, but it's not something that you necessarily want in your public space. And so that's where you can kind of get into some of the establishment clause issues of whether you're endorsing a particular one. That said, you definitely can pick and choose, and that's more of a perception issue. Yeah.
I guess I would want to have I mean, I like this, and I'd like to have a better understanding of the process of how we determine if we're accepting a gift.
I think that there could be, well, if the village adopts a flag policy that, as we've written before, it would include the holiday celebration package, if you will, then that would be a way to do that, and any policy adopted is subject to amendment in the future.
The one I don't want to do is A. I think we've been round and round this long enough. I prefer B if we do anything. I would like to adopt a policy that is neutral as to all other flags and adopt only C1 and not try to prejudge whatever may come. What I'd like to do, if we can't agree on B, which I suspect we won't, if we don't get a vote on B.
I mean,
I don't know what
I'm potentially open to B.
Okay.
My brain is considering, but I want us to be very clear about how we would go about deciding what that looks like, and is that something, again, you know, my concern, yeah.
I'm talking about 2B, so adopt the status
I
quo.
am too.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
okay. So my preference is 2B with the holiday package. And then, that's what I'm gonna call it.
Game show host, sorry.
And then if we can't, C1, where we simply say in our process that it's these 3 government flags, and then if somebody comes to us and wants to gift to us a flag of their choosing and make a request, then at the time of the gift, we will consider whether we want to accept the gift and fly that additional flag.
So how does that differ from?
This is 2C1.
That's 2C1. That's what I'm saying. My backup position is 2C1. I would prefer to just say 2B.
Can I ask on 2B?
Yes,
So officially it's 2B, but really it's 2C1.
not to be.
Be or not to be?
Is 2B like the status quo holidays, or like what's holiday? Like
A
would
holiday.
holiday be Pride Month
The
or?
holiday celebration is just the flag, the menorah and the Christmas tree and the orbs.
Okay, so holiday is only defined as
The holiday season, yes, the
okay,
holiday,
traditionally understood as
the December holidays.
okay.
Okay.
I guess the Lake Forest, when we put up the high school.
Well,
we-
so,
That's-
but that's
yeah.
my point, is like, what I was hearing is because there are also other holidays that
Right.
occur outside of.
The December
you know,
holidays.
Eve just happened,
Right.
right?
Right.
So that was not December, that
Right.
was
You're right.
February through March, or, yeah. So my question is, how do we discern, oops.
Yeah, we went back to this to list the holiday. Where is it? Holiday number 4.
No, wreaths.
But what I heard just now is that we were considering if someone were to gift us decor for a holiday, and my concern, or what I'd like to build on, is how do we determine if we're accepting the gift? I suppose we need to also add on, how are we discerning that process? And 2C1?
Yeah,
2C1?
yeah,
Or
yeah.
2C
2C1 is the one where we are saying what we are all approving is status quo, but we will identify a process, like accepting the menorah, like accepting a flag, that we will then turn into public, it will be our speech. We're saying, yes, we
Right.
want to accept it. That is our speech. And with respect to the menorah, we believe that the answer is, yes, we are accepting it. It will be
Right.
our speech.
I am trying to box you into one of his choices. and
I know, okay,
It's
if I
really
have to
hard.
box in, I'm in 2B, but I don't want,
But you're.
I don't think, I think we tried 2C2.
So,
I think we tried 2C2 and it didn't,
Well, we voted no on 2C2.
So
we did.
I am trying to box you in still,
I-
and I get you
B.
into B,
I am
2C1.
Okay, 2B.
2C1.
She said 2B.
2B,
We
fine.
said 2B, but
I want everybody to understand what I'm saying with
That's why
respect to
I wanna
2C.
keep
I want to understand, I want everybody to understand what we're saying with 2C1.
And I think going back to the resolution adopting a policy regarding displays on village property that was discussed and voted on last year, had within the third recital a series of standards
Yes.
that included, for example,
And what I'm saying is we could adopt a policy like that, that includes.
creates a process. for
Creates a
future-
process for future decisions with, and we could at least get past square one. You know what I mean? We could all get to, okay, we have this process because we want to accept the menorah. I think,
Okay.
I think you can do that now. You can do that as part of this adoption.
I want a clean policy that just says status quo, and this is what we will do if we want to do others.
So what you're saying is, and I want to move
Want to
forward.
be, but I want
I
to.
want to move forward with basically the end of this meeting, okay, in mind.
Oh, is it time? We're
Well,
past
it's
It's
way
beyond
past the
time.
time. So the deal is, Susan, listen to me. You want to be clear about that.
I
But
do.
you also want the next step to be basically toward the 2C1, that is create a process standard. This is where you want also to go toward, having a possible process.
See, Kat was more definitive. 2B is, I think, where we are. I do.
You want to be 2B, that's it.
I want everyone to understand that an alternative, if we can't get everyone comfortable with 2B, and then I think the alternative is to have a policy and to not agree today, maybe it's next maybe it's upon application from a resident, we go through this process for the menorah. We go through this process for the pride flag in May, really.
Right.
And then we isolate the issue. We isolate the issue to that one issue rather than having all of this muck at the same time.
My only concern is that I want us to avoid what happened
I
in
know.
Boston.
I know.
Which is, we're gonna say yes to everything and then create precedent that, am I right here? Like,
Yeah.
that's,
Say yes to everything.
well, what, the Boston situation was, there wasn't precedent of the government saying no to anything, which then when they said no, it was
It's
like,
gonna be-
well,
It's going to be a majority vote. I mean, it is going to be a majority vote, and then it's going to be public speech. I think in Boston, it was private speech. It was everything goes until, oops.
So I
And
want to
so they
focus.
were allowing it as a public forum, as I understand it. We're going to maintain it as a public speech,
So
village speech.
I want to focus, okay? This is, so you're a 2B, but you also want the possibility of a door opening to a process.
No, I'm 2B.
You're 2B, no process? Okay. And so, no, it's fine. I mean,
It's my, what do you call, off-ramp? It's my escape valve. If we,
Settlement position.
it's my settlement position, that's
okay,
exactly
all
right.
right. So I will take a 2B from you. I
Take a
probably have
2B
to
from
stay
me.
where I stand, right? So I see, frankly, where I stand is a 2C1, but I don't think we'll ever get there because it provides the tranquility and the progressive aspect are very difficult. There's a lot of difficulty negotiating there. So at the end of the day, I would like to see one, but I would be absolutely okay with a 2B. Okay, that's me. All right. The thing I keep in mind is, and this is the sad part, is if I look at the strategic plan, this is we're inclusive and we're welcoming and loving toward everybody in this village. There are kids who lost their lives because they didn't feel that way. Okay? And I'm very serious about that. This is, we need to work on being welcoming to the people in our community, whoever they are. And this is the bubble. Okay? This is where we stand. So to that effect, the event policy, now the non-flag pole type discussion, my stance on the event is we need to be welcoming. And if we're not welcoming on the flagpole, we're welcoming on the green. That means that 24 hours or 3 days, I would prefer 7 days, but 3 days is fine with me. Okay, so maybe we say by default, we say 24, but
we can
Drew
agree
has a
to-
lot of latitude to go to 3 days. We need to show the fact that for the 14-year-old, the 16-year-old, the 18-year-old who don't know where to stand, that this is okay. And so when I look at that, I look at Highwood, for example. The Highwood, the LGBT celebration is actually not done by the village, by the city of Highwood, whatever it is, whatever they are. This is actually an outside organization that has members in Highwood that are making that to happen. And I think this is fine, this is great. And you know what? One thing also that actually gets me for the flag is, one thing I didn't say is, we don't want an LGBT flag, but that means also that we don't want a missing in action flag. It's in the same bucket, okay? So we cannot do that, but we should allow for that celebration to happen on the ground, and that's where I stand. So the 3 day is where I would sit with strong guideline from Drew, that is the violence, the rowdy behavior in the community. This is the village after all, okay? That's where I stand.
Can I just say one thing that's not about where I stand, but we are missing 2 board members. And I don't feel great about taking
No.
any kind of decision right now.
know.
I would much rather us, and I think I know generally where Rafi and I have had so many discussions. So I don't think it's time to, that's how I feel right now. I just don't know that it's.
So as far as next steps, we can do, you have multiple options, but I could work with Stu to bring back to you all at the meeting on the 27th, another workshop, propose amendments, explicit language amending our special events policy, one discussion item, and then a draft flag policy that you guys can talk through.
Yep.
That reflects to be-esque and maybe the possible insertion of standards for a, you know, some other, so we can have some options within there. Does that sound like a plan?
Yep.
I mean, I wasn't gonna be here on the 27th.
I know.
This is what I'm gonna say. I'm speaking at a Boy Scout event about this, not about pride flags, but about government and what it's like to be in local government. So I will come back. I will be late, so if we can
Do
put
it later?
mid-meeting, I mean, I think I'll be done at 7:30 and it's in Highland Park, so,
Cool.
okay.
Late in the agenda is fine.
That's what I'm
That makes
suggesting,
sense.
yeah.
All right. But I think that if I look at my notes, we have pretty much consensus on the event policy. I mean, we're all pretty much saying the same anyways, so I don't see an issue with that. I think that if I do an average of where we stand on the flagpole, this is a 2B plus, 2C minus, 2C1 minus, somewhere there. But that's really where we are. And that's not that far apart. So I think we can get to a point. Now with Brian and Rafi, we'll get there. But we're pretty much there. Okay? Okay, that said, could I please prompt our absolutely full room with 4 public comments? Of course. Please state your name and your address.
I bring props too. Jennifer Beeler, 322 Malman in Lake Bluff. And
Can
I'm
you speak
speaking-
to the microphone so that people can hear us online?
And I'm speaking on behalf of me as an individual and a supporter of the LGBTQ community. And also, I guess, on behalf of my dog, because my dog's walking with me to raise funds for the Trevor Project next month. So I want to thank you all, because this is a really interesting discussion. And as a person who currently has an application in front of you, you obviously have a vested interest in what this discussion is evolving into. Last year, because of the flag discussion, we quickly put together an event to wrap the trees in the Village Green. And for those of you who were there, it was joyful. Okay? It was kids with bubbles. There was music that was being played. We brought ribbons that had all the colors of the flag. People kind of got their own message going, and they brought Christmas wrapping ribbon. I mean, there were all different sorts of things there. As the event started, there were a couple of young men near the War Memorial at the end of the park. And because this was a gay pride event or a pride event, little trepidation as to what they were there for. And so we walked over, asked them why they were there. They were from the military base. They were waiting for their ride back, and asked what we were doing, told them what we were doing, and they started blowing bubbles for the kids. I mean, it was
Really sweet.
it was
That's
fun. It was
awesome.
great.
It was fun.
But it was fun because looking at the trees afterwards, that was the flag. That was a creation, that was art. Everybody participated. Everybody got different parts of it. People were holding up kids to wrap the branches. And what was joyful about it as well was after it was done, people started unwrapping the trees. There were kids, it was, I think, one of the concerts on the green. And the kids started to unwrap the ribbons, tie them around their heads, tie them around their waists. They spun each other like tops. So it was a creation that we made that day, and even its destruction, its deconstruction, was a beautiful event. So my ask to you as I'm listening to this is, we'd like to host it again this year. I would ask to consider keeping it up for a week or two. And I know you're talking about a 3-day limit, but it's a gift. It's a flag. It's a representation of a flag. Maybe it's signage that's there after the event to show what had happened and created that day. But I'd like to be able to see it there for more than just a 2 or 3, less ephemeral, a little bit more lasting in its kind of effect. And I'd like to be able to do this as well, and I'm saying I'm sorry, there's so many people, and that's why I brought the board there. There's so many people that said, let's do it again next year. Let's do this kind of celebration. We had people from not just Lake Bluff, from Round Lake, from Waukegan, from other places that came and helped us that day. But it made a statement. It said, welcome to Lake Bluff. And it said, you are safe here. And I think more than anything, that ties into what you've been discussing tonight. So with that, thank you again for your consideration on this, but I hope that there's deliberation quickly on this. And again, the ask is to say, let it stay up a little bit longer to show how we feel in this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a closing thought to this difficult event.
Man.
Sure.
Anybody participating in this meeting via Zoom who would like to make comments on this item, now's the time to raise your hand so you can be identified and be promoted to a panelist. So please do so at this time. It's not.
Okay, thank you. I have a closing thought to this discussion that is actually, I was not looking forward to this discussion. Last year was actually really hard for me. I did not have a fun time going through it because I was trying to establish a general thought and I could not wrangle the different thoughts coming together. And so basically I had the last 12 months to think about it. And the thought I want to say I am going to bring forward is actually absolutely not typical to the way I think typically. And I'm not a church person, but I did attend church and I got married in a church. And one thing I was amazed attending that church, which was a pretty large mess inside, was I did ask, well, why is that there's such a mess in this church? I mean, things would just, you need your church in Deerfield. And I was told, you know what, it's by design. And I'm like, that's weird. Why would you want a church that is messy by design, that represents the community inside? And I was told, you know what, this is the difference between a very orderly church and a very messy church. And the very orderly church is actually a church that is dying. And so the basic point is our process is very messy, proving point the last 12 months, but that's us as a community trying to decide for ourselves who we are. And I think it's okay. And so we will arrive to a consensus, whatever it is, and I see it on my sheet right here on my summary of what was said. I think we're getting there, but it's part of the process. So please hold on. Please be with us on that one. All of you, community and us, board, bear with us, bear with me on that one. We're getting somewhere.
Thank you.
All right. So I believe that this is the end of this meeting. Could I please have a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Awesome. Thank you so much. It is 7:23. Let's get back together in about 3 minutes, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'm going home.
Started.